Hey, this is Buckley. I'm the founder and CEO of CollabTalk, and I'm here with Tom.
Hey guys, Tom Arbuthnot. I'm Principal Solutions Architect at Modality Systems, and I spend all my time focused on Skype for Business and now Microsoft Teams.
So this episode of MVP Buzz Chat, so we're actually here in Microsoft Studios. We're over in Building 127 here in Redmond, Washington. And Tom, like your background, your focus, why don't you tell the audience?
Yeah, so I come from a unified communications background. So originally Cisco when it was IP telephony. Jumped over to Microsoft when it started becoming true unified communications. Followed it through OCS, Link, Skype, our 2-year rebrand, what we do.
Yep.
And now, interestingly, at the point where it's now Microsoft Teams is kind of Microsoft's new vision of where that technology goes.
It was interesting as we were talking about what to cover here around kind of the Microsoft's vision for intelligent communications. Because my background being from the SharePoint, collaboration, knowledge and records management side of things, and building out portals, building out intranet environments, and getting into the SharePoint space, is that one of the topics that I've talked about for the last decade is about social and about the communication side. So instant messaging and other types of communications, but being these other artifacts that are captured in the normal, doing business as we collaborate. And so we're now kind of seeing the merging of these two sides.
Yeah, and it makes sense. So if you're having, instant messaging conversations or recording conferences on Skype, you've been doing that for the longest time. Those assets don't really get used, they get lost. They're in your conversation history in Outlook, or maybe at best you put a recording on SharePoint and nobody goes and looks at it. But now with Teams and intelligent communications, it feels like we're on the edge of really making use of those assets.
Right. Well, it's you think of that. I often describe it as IP leakage. So where you have this intellectual property that's being created, this tacit knowledge.
Yeah.
How I always share it is that when I started working for the phone company back in the mid-1990s, Pacific Bell, I went and sat with a guy who owned these processes, and that was his last week. My first week was his week of retirement.
Classic handover.
Hey, I get to go out to lunch, and he literally handed me binders. And I would ask him questions. He's like, well, that's in the binder. And I would open this up and see this very detailed workflow, this process for this action, and I'd be lost. Like, where do I even start? Where do I look for this thing? And I would go and ask him questions about it, and he would just start telling me these stories. So here I am taking notes, and at one point I thought, it's like, I need to record this somehow. I'm going to lose all of this valuable information.
Yeah.
That's essentially what happens when you are not capturing your chat, the meetings, the conversation, the audio, the video.
Like email as well, even just back to basics. Like, it kills me internally. We're about 150 people, so not huge, but big global in the sense of communication. So teams in the US, teams in Australia, teams in the UK. Every time I see a great thread on email, I'm like, no, this is going to get lost. And I've been a big champion of Yammer, but Yammer's a cultural shift that's hard for some people. Teams is a good middle ground for us because the conversation is at least happening out loud, it's at least getting recorded, it's at least getting archived.
And the vision for it, and not that it's 100% there, but Microsoft is very clear of the roadmap for that, is that eventually all of those activities that happen within Teams gets tied back and recorded, captured within the graph. And so you think of it this way, like today, I can't go into any one tool, any one system. I can't go into SharePoint or even into Teams or Yammer or Exchange, or even on the back end, I can't go in and do a search and pull up relevant conversations and artifacts from all of those systems.
Yeah.
But that's where it's going.
Yeah.
That's part of the intelligent communications, is having that context, having all that relevant intellectual property.
Yeah, so I'll give you an example. So one of my roles is kind of product owner for one of our products. So I work with the development team in a different office. We do a daily stand-up at 9:30. Now on Teams, we have a channel for that stand-up, so we can record the conversation. That recording is currently in early preview, but it's coming mainstream. So the stand-up automatically gets recorded, goes to stream automatically, gets transcripted automatically. So if someone wanted to now, they could go back to Monday stand-up, skim the transcript, jump to the right point for them. Previously, that was just getting lost. Now that is all archived. And if, quite often as I do, I make a decision or a recommendation, 2 weeks later, the team are like, you said 2 weeks ago we were going to do this. Like, well, now it's there. So, and that's for me as much as anything else. Like, what was my context? Oh, yes, I remember why I said that.
And it's powerful, too, as using now Office 365 video and stream, is being able to go and look at the transcripts of those videos as well and search on that to find that relevant information. So even if you find, you do a search and it pulls back a video, being able to go more in depth and say, well, at the 10-minute, 12-second mark, that's where this discussion actually happened. So it's going to make it even more relevant, more contextual.
And stream picks out who was talking as well. It attempts to do facial recognition. It attempts to do, so you can literally see on the stream who was talking when and what they said in the transcript. I mean, it's, as you say, it's early days for these technologies, but this is where the differences between what Microsoft call unified communications and intelligent communications. Intelligent communications is trying to leverage cloud power, bots, AI, everything that's special about the cloud, bring that into the communications process.
Well, I think that a lot of people that are interested in the future of that automation, the bots and the connectors and kind of all those different pieces, and they say, well, I look at some of the examples that out there, and granted, some of them it's early, so some of them are very simplistic, and it's different companies, different partners are experimenting and seeing what's possible there. But it also requires to have those feeds, to have those inputs. If it's not yet part of the graph, if it's not yet being captured, you can't then obviously go in and automate those pieces. So we need everything to be journaling, recording into the substrate of the graph, being captured there within. And then when you think of the machine learning, being able to go in and recognize that, Tom just went and searched on this field, but what he really means, like everybody that was searching on that was really ended up looking for this, and start making suggestions.
Definitely.
I always say that the downside to search is that there's a lot of factors that make for search to work. I mean, 1, you have the right permissions. 2, that the right metadata was applied. 3, that the system is live, whether it's in the cloud or on-prem somewhere. 4, that it's that it is set up, that it's classified properly. I mean, and then 5, you have to use the right keywords to even pull that up. You use the wrong keywords, you'll never find that content.
And sometimes you don't know what the keyword is to know what you're looking for. I mean, we know as kind of, certainly as a technologist, like being able to search is one of our key skills. It's quotes, it's plus this, it's minus that, like driving that down. That's a skill set that hopefully as search gets better and better, you need less of it. So like you say, I'm looking for this. Oh, you might mean this, or you might want to talk to Lindsay because she's the expert in that area. Like bring up help, not just results.
Well, I'd say that's what the bot is going to be able to go and do. The bot can be an expert at the search and know what to go and add and ask me about to do those refiners to pull that. It's like, hey, look, I found these results. How else do you want me to go and look for this? Or start to make suggestions and let me then go make selections from that.
So a really cool use case you remind me on that is one of the Australian universities that are using Teams. They had a third party build a bot. The bot sits in the channel while the students are talking, and as they're talking, if certain keywords come up, the bot says, oh, you might want to go and replay this lecture because I've noticed you said this word 3 or 4 times, like that was the lecture, this might help you. And they've seen some really good reports on like, oh yeah, like content that previously was getting unused is now surfacing and being used because it's contextual.
Right. What's exciting about this too is that the concept is not new. And I remember in the late 1990s, this idea in software development of this pattern recognition, and it was one of the promises of using unified modeling was that we have a common way of describing and talking about what eventually becomes the code, then we can look for patterns and be able to reuse and kind of share those different things. The reality is that it's a much more complex problem like that. And so by using artificial intelligence, the machine learning to go and adapt and fill the gaps to understand, oh, but this is what people who looked for this really did. Here's the actions that happen. Here's the friend of a friend of a friend, and they looked at something similar, and maybe that's more relevant for this search.
Definitely.
Providing that kind of knowledge is just going to improve it across the board.
But I mean, the other thing that's key now is the capture. Like realistically, you can have the best knowledge management processing system tags in the world. Like if there's friction there, people keep stuff on their local disk, or they do a meeting and it wasn't recorded. Now with Office 365, that it's less friction to centralize than not. Like by default you're on OneDrive, by default you're probably in Teams, by default you're recording. So all that data is pretty much automatically captured now, which is really kind of these twin things of the capture being more automatic and the processing power and expertise in the cloud coming together.
And I think that the only thing missing, and I know it's on the roadmap and we're getting close to that, is that all of the conversation also being unified on the back end where it's being captured. So whether you're having a threaded conversation, a discussion in Yammer, or it's happening over inside of Teams, or it's happening on on Skype consumer if you have it tied in there, if you make it available for that or save it down, or even through third-party tools that are integrated into SharePoint, if you can then tie it all into that back end and make it searchable and accessible, then it becomes part of that knowledge management base.
Yeah, you're not, like knowledge management isn't something you go and do, it's the system is kind of doing a lot of the work for you, which is, the only real way things get done is if they're automatic or part of the process. So I'm excited about that.
Well, this really is the future of intelligent communications. We talk about the technology because we're technologists. We get excited about cool features, cool new software, but the reality is it's a way of organizing and surfacing the content that we've been capturing and gathering, for years and years and years around knowledge management and collaboration. It's just another way to surface and consume that information.
Yeah, like you say, we get excited about the technology. I think that the thing that I'm trying to always bring myself back to is the business and the users, and certainly in that case, none of the technology is any good unless the tool gets used. So it's all about that, like you say, you've got email, you've got Yammer, you've got Teams, helping the users pick the right tool, make the right use case, and bring that together is really the key.
Right. All right, well, thanks a lot for your time here, Tom. I know that we've got a lot of other exciting things happening this week, and so please check out the rest of the videos, the MVP Buzz Chat series here, as I interview one-on-one other MVPs from around the world across different technologies. So I know we're both office servers and services, but very different backgrounds getting back into this space, or we're both MVPs. But
I appreciate
to see you a lot.
Yeah, appreciate being on the show, and thanks to everybody in the studio for letting us use it, and hair and makeup and stuff. It's been good fun.
I know you look great.
Well, this is as good as it gets, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, we look good. Yeah.